Welcome to Finding Magic, the podcast series where each week I sit down with someone new to discover where they find their magic and explore the wonder, creativity and connection that makes life truly magical. I'm Beverley Bishop, and I've been on my own journey to finding magic since 2018 after the loss of my son Jess. It began with a play I wrote called Finding Magic, which explored my grief and my path towards rediscovering joy. Today, we're diving into a theme really close to my heart, finding the magic within. We often look outside ourselves for magic, in people, experiences, or even a lucky break. But what if the most powerful magic is already inside us, just waiting to be uncovered? To help us explore this, I'm thrilled to be joined by Cathy Eden, a transformational life coach who helps people reconnect with their inner power and purpose. Welcome, Cathy.
Hello.
And it's so lovely to have you here at the Sound Yard.
It's great to be here. What a lovely subject, my favourite.
Lovely, and mine too, which is why we're both here together.
Yeah.
So, Cathy, one thing I'm really intrigued to know is exactly what is a life coach?
Oh, that's like a $10 million question. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever explored like the world of life coaching or kind of ever tried to find one online, but life coaching is, I guess, a bit of an umbrella term. And the chances are, if you ask 10 coaches the same question, they'd all give you a slightly different answer. But for me, life coaching is really a sort of service that's there to help people who need a bit of a hand to navigate something that's going on in their lives. So quite often people come to me because they're feeling stuck. Mm-hmm. They might be needing to make a decision about something, and for all sorts of reasons that might be really difficult. And lots of coaches have different specialities. Mm-hmm. You know, some people might support people with their careers. Some people are like me, are kind of more general life coaches. Mm-hmm. There's so many different kinds of coaches. Yeah.
How is it different to counselling?
Well, really good question. So I actually I sort of describe myself really as almost like a therapeutic coach. So I work with a real blend of tools. So some from the coaching world, which is to do with kind of working towards goals. And understanding your current situation, but sort of quite future facing. Mm-hmm. But I also, because, you know, all of us humans are complex. We all have things that have happened to us, things that might perhaps make moving forwards kind of more difficult. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, I also blend in some tools from therapy to help people to do that. So particularly when people are stuck. Mm-hmm. It's quite useful to be able to bring that in. Mm-hmm. So it is different from counselling, and it has a sort of perhaps a slightly different focus.
Yeah.
But
is the focus kind of more like solution focused, so that you've got a goal in mind, somewhere that you know that you want to get to?
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes those goals are really unclear. So people just kind of come with a sense that things aren't quite right. And they don't quite know what it is, and they don't necessarily feel like they want to really kind of go into the past. Mm-hmm. Perhaps they've done that work already, or they're just not ready, or it just doesn't feel like what they want. And I think perhaps where I might be different from other coaches is that I am able to explore that if it comes up. Okay. We might want to do some of that work as part of our moving forward work. Yeah.
But generally the focus is on where people are right now and where they might want to be.
And I'm sure if you had another coach here, they might
say something different.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, that's kind of how I work. And before I start working with people, we always have a chat to make sure that it's the best place for them to be, so we can just kind of work out where they are with things. So that's kind of how I work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in response to that, I'm really curious to find out from you about what your take is on finding the magic within.
I think for me, there's almost two parts to my answer. I think one part is finding the magic within is about getting to know who you are inside. So the things that really matter to you, what you care about, who you want to be in the world, and your unique gifts, you know, even if you don't necessarily feel you have them, we all have things that make us special, that we can contribute.
I mean, in my experience, because I've been talking to quite a lot of people about, you know, what their magic is, where they find it. And so many people have said to me, well, I don't have any.
Yeah.
That they're not aware of what their magic is.
Absolutely.
And I'm so passionate about the fact that we all do have our magic, but it is a question sometimes of finding it.
It is. I mean, and I think sort of part two to my answer for that, which is kind of connected, is that I think finding your magic, or sort of knowing your magic, is a felt sense. So it's the things that you connect with in your life, the things that, you know, might be a really small moment that just makes your heart like just really sort of leap or soar, you know, and you just feel that feeling of joy.
Yeah.
Just really fleeting kind of sense sometimes. So sometimes in learning how to find that sense, we can come to our greater magic. Oh, that's what I care about. That's what matters to me. So I think they're kind of connected.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you do is helping people, supporting people to find their joy.
For sure.
You know, which might be moments of.
It could, yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll go on to that, but yeah, it might just be a split-second thing that, because our lives are so busy, we might be under, you know, lots going on. We just kind of sometimes we miss it. So yeah, part of the work that I do with people when it's needed is to slow things down so that they can be more present to those moments of magic that might otherwise go missing. Yeah.
So do you think one of the blocks that people have in, you know, remembering their joy, remembering their magic, is perhaps that their life is so incredibly busy that they don't even have time to think about it because they're so engrossed in just simply getting through each and every day?
Absolutely. I think we don't give ourselves a lot of time necessarily, or we're not allowed, you know, our lifestyles or, you know, the situations we're living in don't necessarily afford us many opportunities to be bored, to notice, to slow down. It's a for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes we choose to be busy. Sometimes, you know, life gives us stuff that makes us, you know, really fills our, you know, our brains up. And we don't necessarily give ourselves the chance to notice what's magical, what we're doing that's magical, what other people are doing for us that's magical. It's a quote from Ferris Bueller. I'm showing my age, but he says something like, it's if you don't slow down once in a while, you're not going to notice, like life is going to pass you by. So yeah, I think it is, we spend a lot of time striving and perhaps not so much time appreciating. Yeah.
And how do you encourage people to slow down? Because I can imagine if I'm not in the right headspace and somebody said slow down, I'd go, how can I slow down? Because I've got a list of things to do. And then after I've done this list, I've got another set of things to do. And I just can't slow down, even though I know at the back of my mind that it would be my best interest. So do you have any tips or a way in to help people slow down?
So it can be something as simple as, you know, when, you know, I've got my cup of tea here. So, you know, holding it in your hands and feeling the warmth of the cup, thinking about how it feels in your hands, maybe remembering where you bought the mug from and connecting, oh yeah, that was a gift from, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And even just, you know, when you're drinking your coffee, just enjoying the flavour of it in your mouth, the smell of it. So using your senses. Even if you just did that for like 5-10 seconds, or, you know, you're having a shower in the morning when you get up, hopefully you're, you know, able to do that on your own. Maybe you've got little kids, that might not be so possible, but, you know, just seeing the feeling of the water on your skin, the smells from your soap, anything where you're engaging with your senses helps you to focus on what's happening in the present moment. So even if you know that ahead of you you've got like back-to-back meetings, you've got a sick relative or whatever is going on that's making life feel like it's really squashing you and it's really stressful, it is possible, you know, and it's practice, isn't it, to find those little moments in the day when you can really like connect with your senses and just slow things down. That's enough.
I love the idea about the cup of tea, because I love my tea, honestly. I love my tea so much. It is my addiction of choice. But the thought of actually using that cup of tea for a moment of quiet and calm and appreciation. Even, as you were telling me just then, I thought, oh, yeah, that is something that I could do.
Yeah.
Because one, I do drink so much tea, but two, rather than gulping it down, just to think, okay, this is my time. And I'll simply, just feel the warmth or just enjoy the taste of it, or just enjoy that moment of me and my cup of tea, which is a very special thing to me.
And it might literally be a moment, before you're interrupted or before you're called away to do something. But the more you can do that, the more you can find those little pockets of time. You might want to go a bit further and think, well, while I'm drinking my tea, I'm going to look out the kitchen window. What can I see? What's happening out there? What's the weather like? And doing that kind of thing is kind of like an anchor. So even if life is like pulling you about, those moments help you to be sort of still, to feel safe, but also to you might think, God, I really love tea. Oh, I love tea so much. That's magic. That feeling of like,
yeah. But then it might lead on to, I'm really enjoying a cup of tea, but actually becoming more aware of my surroundings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there might be you might want to bring a bit of gratitude in, things are really tough, but I'm really grateful that I've got this lovely cup of tea this morning in my warm kitchen. That's pretty magic. Sometimes those small things can really mean a lot, but you've got to look for them.
If somebody's wanting to achieve something specific in order to achieve their full potential, I don't know whether it's like running a marathon or whether it's their career or whether it is that they do want to make a specific change in their life. I imagine that's more action focused, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for change to happen, we need to do something to move us towards that. So there's some accountability to reflect back what you're saying, to help you notice sort of some patterns and to sort of help you to identify a path that will take you towards what it is that you want for your life. Because sometimes people come to coaching and it might be that they want a specific thing, like I want to change jobs or I want to improve my relationship, because this is the end goal. But we might actually think, well, that's what it might look like when you get there. But what's it going to be like along the way? What do you want to put in place that's going to help you to move towards that? Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is up to them.
For sure.
But you're there to support them every step of the way and to be there as a guide and also somebody who, in a way, they're kind of accountable to.
For sure. I mean, it really depends what people want. And I ask people when we start working together, what is it that you need? People don't always know, and that's fine. But people often say, I think I know what I need to do, but I'm finding it really hard to kind of get to it. So, we... some accountability, so that checking in like on a regular basis is really helpful. But I also don't tell people what to do because that would be my solution, my goal. Sometimes people might need a bit of, might give a bit of anecdotal, like some people find it helpful to do this, but really coaching isn't about
so it's more about empowering them to come up with their own solutions, if
because
you like.
I think we all, even when we feel like we don't know what we want to do, often we have a sense of what it is. But
especially when somebody tells you what to do, you realise that it's not that.
Exactly. And
I know that's in my nature.
Yeah.
If anybody tells me what to do, even though I don't know what to do myself, I kind of don't like it.
Bristle,
rebel
part
I do find myself bristling. I know that's part of my personality, but it's almost like if somebody tells me what to do, I'm definitely not going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I was encouraged to come to that solution or to help me just find my own solution, I think I'd be much, much more open to it.
It's a collaborative process. It's you don't need me to tell you what to do. You might think you do, but actually we all have our own truth. We just sometimes need a bit of help to get to it, especially when we're overwhelmed.
So how did you get into life coaching?
Because I had a lot of stuff to deal with.
Okay.
That's a great question, but I will cut a long story short, but I developed a long-term health condition when I was in my late teens. So I'm now nearly 50. So that's a long time of not being very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through all sorts of, medical treatments and diagnoses. Nothing. It was really difficult. And I was really suffering. I was really struggling. I was sort of undiagnosed. I just wasn't being looked after very well medically or emotionally, psychologically. And I got to the point in my life when I realised that I couldn't go on the way that I was. There was no magic, really. Things were very, very difficult. And I realised, or I recognised, that I had a bit of a choice about what I did and how I proceeded. And I thought about what I wanted my life to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I knew there was magic out there.
Uh-huh.
I just really wanted to find it. And through a process of, I sort of call it self-recovery,
Mm-hmm.
recovery, worked with some really amazing doctors, healers,
Mm-hmm.
complementary health people,
Mm-hmm.
coaches,
Mm-hmm.
had some coaching to help me with some work stuff, and some really good therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of brought myself to a place where I was living well with,
Mm-hmm.
rather than suffering from or
Yeah.
struggling with.
Yeah.
Although there's still struggle there, don't get me
Uh-huh.
wrong, that living well with what's going on in my body,
Mm-hmm.
what was going on in my brain, and had lots of different jobs over that time. I trained in some complementary therapies because I wanted to understand my own body
Mm-hmm.
and mind
Mm-hmm.
better, but also other people's.
Uh-huh.
And I recognised that it was work that was really meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
That being able to sort of be by somebody's side when they're going through the worst of
Mm-hmm.
times or just in a really stuck place.
Mm-hmm.
I just really loved that work, and I
Mm-hmm.
know from my own experiences that having helpful people, the right helpful people around, can be really transformative.
Yeah.
So, long story,
Yeah.
kind of long.
So
Yeah.
for you, it sounds like you had a vision of where you wanted to be.
Absolutely.
But at that time, you tried a number of different
I did.
methods to find your way.
I did, and I took action, which
Yeah.
is what we were saying before. So, I had a lot of years of being completely lost in what was going on and, functioning pretty well,
Yeah.
family and friends and
Yeah.
outwardly looked like I was doing really well.
Uh-huh.
And I was, but inwardly there wasn't a lot of joy. Life was
Yeah.
quite difficult.
Uh-huh.
So, for me, this journey for myself has been about, getting to know who I am as a person with this condition,
Yeah.
as a person who has had some life experiences, and understanding, getting to know what matters to me,
Yeah.
my values,
Yeah.
which is a lot of the work we do in coaching is
Okay.
around people's values. Yeah.
And taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility, but taking responsibility with self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't beating myself with a
Yeah,
stick
yeah,
saying, you idiot.
Yeah, which
Sort
I think
yourself
is
out.
what lots of us do.
Yeah.
Is we kind of quite often focus on the negative in
Yeah,
us,
absolutely. But
and
that's-
think I can't do that because I'm this, I'm that,
Yeah.
the other, or I've done this.
Yeah, and I still get that because I'm a
Uh-huh.
human, and that's what our brains
Yeah.
are. That they're designed. That's how they work. So that kind of negativity bias or the imposter syndrome thing that we all have. But I think what I learned through my kind of journey is I was able to acquire some tools that helped me when I notice. We're back to noticing again. When I
Okay.
notice that's what's going on, then I know what to do with it. So
Can you give me an example?
of when I notice something's happening,
Yeah.
I know what to do with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had it on the way here this morning. I thought, and some people call it imposter syndrome. So I thought, I'm going to be meeting with Beverley this morning, and she's going to ask me loads of questions. And what if I don't know what to say? And what if we don't get on? And, my mind was really like working overtime on the way here. And then I had a few minutes spare before I came here, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to, and I sat at a bus stop down the road, and I just took a breath, and I had my cup of tea, and I held it in my hand. I felt the warmth of my tea.
You see, we're going back to the cup of tea.
No, but
There's a lot to be said for the cup of tea,
but it
isn't
helped
there?
me. So in that moment, I sort of grounded myself, and I said to myself, "It's okay. sometimes I forget that I know that there are some things I can do to help me when, because life for everybody has pain and difficulty and struggle. We all strive to be happy, but we're not all happy all the time.
Life gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
People do stuff. It's
Yeah.
annoying. We think we know where we are and then something happens. So, I sometimes forget that even though I do this work every day, I love my job, I love, supporting people. Sometimes I forget that, oh, hang on. Oh, no, I do know what to do here. I probably just need to slow down for a minute. I probably just need to not react. And so there was a time in my life when things were really difficult and I was feeling really small, kind of squashed, really sort of buffeted from all sides by life. And there wasn't a lot of magic or joy, or if there was, I wasn't in a head state to like appreciate it or be aware of it. And somebody told me about this concept of glimmers, which was created by an American social worker therapist called Deb Dana. And this term glimmers so it's, if you think about what a trigger is, we think about a trigger as something that makes your nervous system go on high alert, makes you feel ready to run, it's a threat, something like that. Yeah. Glimmer is the opposite. So it's something that a sense that something you see, something you find that helps your nervous system kind of go into a place of safety, of connection. You find yourself kind of breathing, slowing down. And a glimmer is something that sparks a feeling in you of contentment, of safety. And when I was really struggling, I was reminded of this practice and I went off and I was like, oh, God, well, nothing else is helping. What can I do? And I kind of went on a glimmer hunt. Okay. So I really made it my mission because I didn't have much else that I could do. And I thought it was silly to just notice those like little everyday moments.
And where did you find your glimmers?
So
then?
Lovely sandwich. A friend doing something kind. But I remember I had a really, really profound moment. I'm a Norfolk girl. I love the seaside. And I've gone to the beach so many times. And I've been like aware that it's special. The wind's howling. But probably at the time, I was so struggling so much that I just was like, oh, just on the beach. And one day in particular, I thought, right, I'm gonna go to the beach and I'm just gonna try and like be awake to it all. Just gonna really tune in. And I remember standing on, might have been at Caister, trying to think where it was, standing on the beach and all of a sudden, because I was really, really looking, really tuning into it, I remember seeing like the sparkle of the sea, the way the light was catching the sea, the sound of the birds, the sound of the waves, the wind on my face. And I remember feeling, oh, I'm feeling something. Oh, there it is. And I felt it in my tummy and I felt it in my throat. That feeling of like that flip in my tummy. And I was like, I feel joy. This is how you do it. And that was like a sort of little breadcrumb trail for me to kind of come back to a place where I started connecting with the world again. And, so that was a really strong glimmer moment. Does that make sense?
It's so interesting that you should say that, because when you started to talk about glimmer, I immediately thought about the sea.
Yeah.
The glimmer that you see in the sea. And I remember experiencing exactly what you've just spoken about last week. I was staying in a caravan in St Bees, just outside Whitehaven, and I remember walking along the cliffs and just looking out at the sea and just feeling this is the most heavenly thing.
Yeah. And the word I thought was, this is magic.
Yeah. But you're so wise and insightful. And I'm using those words because that's what you are.
Wow.
Which is, a really beautiful thing. And the fact that you're using your own life experience and your own skill and wisdom and insight to help other people find their magic, which I think is a really, really wonderful thing.
Well, the job is a privilege and a pleasure, even when people are in difficulty. To be by somebody's side when they're navigating their way out of or through something is a real privilege. And I know what it's like. I don't know what it's like for them necessarily, but I know what it was like for me and what it continues to be like. So it's a really wonderful job. Yeah, that is my magic. That's, really is for me. And when sometimes I, find myself in a session with somebody really feeling in my flow. So I feel like really connected. And
in that moment
with that person, with whatever's going on. And that is that's an extraordinary thing to find in work. It's really wonderful. Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, do you have a favourite quote or a mantra that captures the essence of finding the magic within?
I do, and I'm going to have to put my specs on because otherwise I'll get it wrong. It's it's a quote I found a while ago, and I'm drawn back to it again and again. I don't know what it is about it, but I felt like it was a really nice fit. So it's a quote from the writer, poet, playwright Yeats, W.B. Yeats. And he said, "The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper."
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful.
Yeah. So it's there, it's out there, but it's for us to take the opportunity to go and find it. Yeah.
What a great quote to finish on. Thank you so much for coming in. And for those listening, if you're curious to learn more about Cathy and her coaching work, you can find her at Cathy Eden, and that's Cathy with a C, cathyeden.co.uk. Thank you so much for joining me today, Cathy. And remember, magic is not just something you witness, it's something you create. Keep finding yours. If you've enjoyed this episode of Finding Magic, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little bit of extra magic today. The Finding Magic podcasts were recorded at Soundyard in Norwich and funded by the National Lottery Community Fund and Norfolk Community Foundation. This has been a Finding Magic production with me, Beverley Bishop, produced by Ian Seisland.